Hello. Welcome to this solo episode with me, Kirsty Lewis, founder of School of Facilitation. I've realised we started recording these podcasts 6 months ago, and I set out with the intent to, every third, fifth episode record something solo, just so you get a felt sense of me, my thoughts, my musings. And I've not done it for 6 months. So here we are, 6 months on. And I thought I would continue sharing my journey to where I am today. So we are going to hop back to when I first left the corporate world, which was January 2008. And we are then going to wander through the next 8 years to 2016. So 2008, I enter the world of freelance, as we call it now, but I was an associate. And I remember the first 3 months, I got super sick. I had a really, really bad sore throat. I'd never had a sore throat like it. And what I didn't realize at the time is I was probably decompressing from working in a big organization, from having spent the last 2.5 years running around the world on and off aeroplanes. So my body decided it needed a bit of a reset because I suddenly wasn't putting under stress and pressure to do. So that was like quite a big wake-up call. At the same time, I was doing a lot of learning for myself. So I went through the insights discovery process. I was being onboarded by a training company who I went to work with for the next 8 years, Expression for Growth. And yeah, the first 3 months felt like a bit of a whirlwind. So for some of you may remember 2008 was also an interesting time because we had a financial crash. And I remember being in a workshop, running a workshop with the owner of EFG at the time. And literally everything seemed to suddenly sort of pause, and it became really apparent that this was quite a serious thing. But I really didn't comprehend it, if I'm really honest, because I could see work, I was okay. I've always said this, I made a life choice, I live on my own, I don't have a cat, I don't have a dog, so I was able to be really self-sufficient. And I seemed to ride that wave in 2008, and I think it was because I was an associate. So this is very much about my associate years, if we're really honest. So 2008 came and went, and I started to really settle in to associate life. Other than Expression for Growth, I worked for a few other independents, which was okay, but I always found it quite a different type of relationship because it was very casual. It wasn't very formalized. If I'm really honest, the day rates were way lower than what I was being paid, and I sort of soon dropped that. So 2008, 2011, all is swimming along. I'm doing lots of associate work. And what I mean by that, I was a sales trainer, a sales coach. I worked with lovely clients like Johnson & Johnson and Unilever, Disney at the time. I was traveling a bit as well into Europe and all around the UK. So all was good until probably, I can remember it really clearly, December 20. No, it was earlier. It was summer of 2009. And my mum had said she hadn't felt very well. And then I went and did one of my adventures, which I haven't spoken about, but I sailed across the Atlantic in November 2009 into St. Lucia. So Lanzarote to St. Lucia on an all-girl crew. There were 6 of us. And that was probably one of my first big sailing adventures. It was amazing. And then I got back, and in 2010 I was running some workshops for BP, weirdly, and I remember my dad ringing me and telling me that my mum was really quite ill and she had cancer. And if anyone's ever experienced news like that, I did, I think, one of two. You do one of two things, and I did okay, put it back in a box, went back into the workshop, got on as if nothing had happened. Just that. So we had mum having chemo through 2010, and then we were told she was in remission come the summer. My mum's a nurse, and so they'd use the language of partial remission, and she was like, well, what does that mean? And they're like, well, it could come back, it might not. So Yeah, mum just kept an eye on the situation. I kept working. It was quite good doing this new world of work. It meant I could travel back to my mum and dad's quite easily and be there for her when required and when I wanted to, and she wanted me to. But it all came back with a vengeance late 2010. And then 2011, she died, which is really quite shit. So for any of you who've been through that experience, I get it. Well, I get my version of it. You'll have your own version. It's just really quite rubbish when a parent passes away and you're not we were expecting it. And so, yeah, she died in the summer of 2011, right around the summer solstice, really, which I hadn't really connected into that space at that time. But now I do. It makes me smile. She wanted to go out on a high note. And at that time, from a work perspective, I'd really got an itch. I really wanted to know what it was like to work with my own clients. I wanted to know what it would be like to manage that client relationship process and do the work and do some delivery. And so I had started conversations, and I was in that space of getting close to signing some contracts. But after mum died, to be quite frank, just didn't have the energy. And I used the language of plug and play. So I was really, really lucky. The company I work with, Expression for Growth, were brilliant. I took time off. I thought I took a lot of time off. A month. Let's be honest, that is not a lot of time after someone dies. And I just went back into work mode, and they just won a lovely contract with Unilever. So I just threw myself into that, training lots of teams in the commercial space, firstly in the UK, then in Ireland, then in Europe, and then started to go as far afield as Australasia, America. It was brilliant. But I literally put everything in a box, pressed it down, sort of looked at it, learnt to cry, as I just said to a girlfriend today, who's just been through something very similar with her dad. Yeah, and I didn't have the energy. To do what it takes to run a business. I could show up and run workshops that I knew intimately, and I could raise my invoices, but actually that's a lie. I think Victoria was raising my invoices by then. Maybe she wasn't. No, she wasn't. Anyway, the point is, it was easier for me to do just delivery and design work and not have to think things through. So that was 2011. That was 2011, 2012, 2013. And then in September 2013, I'm still very much in the associate space, but there is like this thing. I'm rubbing my fingers if you're listening to this but not watching. It's like there was started to become like a want and a desire to do something different. And interestingly, my mentor one day rang me, Helen Jane Nelson, and said, "I don't think you've grieved your mum." I was quite shocked by that. And she said, "So I'm going to gift you a coaching session, a 90-minute coaching session with a lady called Judy Wilkins Smith. And she is South African, but based in Phoenix, America. And she is a systemic constellation coach. And I think it would be really good for you to go and talk with her and explore what is going on for you at this time and in relation to grief in your mum." I'm never one to look a gift horse in the mouth. And whenever HJ has suggested development work to me, it's hit the mark. So off I go onto Skype at the time, and I meet Judy, and literally my head is blown apart by this 90-minute session. Like, revelations for me about family patterns, my patterns, so much so that I then started a coaching relationship with Judy that went on for 2 years, because of the deep work that I was doing and the support and the help it gave me. I also then at that time got so giddy about systemic constellations. I went back to HJ and said, how do I learn to do this? How do I learn more? How can I go deeper in my learning? So in January 2014, I joined a 2-year family constellation journey. It was amazing, and did lots of deeper learning, which sort of helped. Well, I should go through any learning. If you're learning to be a coach, if you're learning about NLP, Enneagram, any modality that takes you deep inside yourself, you learn it, but you're also then sorting out your stuff at the same time. So that's exactly what I did. But it was during this time of learning, and especially working with Judy, that the concept for School of Facilitation started to gestate. And it was definitely a birthing process, because there was a small kernel of an idea that started late 2013, probably December, and then came to be, I think, September or maybe August 2014, so 9 months. And I remember looking back at the time going, that was 9 months. Oh, am I giving birth? And that's what it felt like, that I had been nurturing and growing this concept. And to begin with, there was no name. There was just a felt sense. There was a kernel of an idea, a seed. And it definitely was nurtured and brought to life, just as if you heard Kat's episode where we were talking about, niching. But for me, the birthing process of this business was through me, my ideas, my energy, the coaching with Judy, going through my systemic constellation journey, research, and talking to others, like talking to other facilitators and trainers, because what it became apparent was I couldn't find my community. I couldn't find the people who were facilitators and trainers that I could talk to. Yes, I had a very close-knit group, and I knew there was more out there. I also always had this burning belief that there was a space for us to learn how to design workshops, how to create learning, but also how do you deliver it? I couldn't find that anywhere. I couldn't find anyone teaching, coaching how to be a really great trainer or facilitator. Often it was like, you learned the skills on the job. You were expected maybe to observe other people and then mirror them or mimic or match them. And I just thought, no, there's something here. So from like Christmas 2013 through to the summer of 2014, I carried on working as an associate, but I was nurturing this idea of School of Facilitation. And I came up with a name. Can't even tell you how that happened. I just know it was there. It became very apparent. And then we had our first gathering in London in September 2014 at Wallace Space. It might have even been August, which is a ridiculous month to have an event, if you ask me. That's why I think it's September. I say ridiculous because in the UK, at least, and in Europe, August is such a quiet month in the learning space. Everybody's on holiday. Everyone shuts their businesses down. So let's say it was September, team. I reckon it was September. So we had the first gathering, and I remember ringing people, writing to people and inviting them to come, and explaining to them this idea that I thought was rather crazy. And would they come and join me? I think what was really interesting and very telling at that time were my fears were really present, and my fear of people not wanting to come, that I am unworthy, and that people won't see me as credible. So the way that showed up was I'd invite people to come to events, and they came, but I wouldn't invoice them until after the event. So I took the load, the financial costs all on my shoulders, and then prayed that enough people would come and I would cover my costs, which now seems a little bit crazy. But at the time made perfect sense to me, because that was my money mindset and my fear that, no one would show up. So we get to 2014. I'm still an associate and I'm loving that and doing a lot of sales training, but I'm starting to talk more and more about workshop design and how to be a facilitator. I then went on a mastermind with a lady called Danielle, and that was brilliant because I met 6 amazing women, 3 of whom I'm still really, really close to. And it's been that was inspiring, and that it gave me the space to again think about, like, what is my business? What is the shape of it? What could School of Facilitation look like, be like, and become? What I should probably say is between 2014 and 2017, I still ran my business under the name of Blue Tortoise. And that was my first business name, Blue Tortoise. And the reason I didn't change it to SOF, School of Facilitation, is because I thought all the paperwork would be far too hard. And it would take, at that time, we were starting to get into some big corporates. And I thought, oh my God, it's just going to be so much hassle, changing with HMRC, changing it with the bank, yada, yada, yada. I told myself it's really difficult to do a name change. How silly was I? No, it's not. It's a letter to the bank. You ask your accountant to help you. They make the change with HMRC and Companies House. And you just have to write out to everybody and change your letterhead on your invoicing. It was that simple. But isn't it amazing the stories we tell ourselves? And so for the first 3 years of SOF being in existence, it wasn't a formalized name. That only happened in 2017. How daft am I? But it is what it is. And I did what I did. I think 2014 to 2016. So I'm still an associate and I'm still thinking about things around, all things around SOF. And I'm starting to do regular gatherings in London. And I am starting to think about offering out workshops. And the first workshop I did was in London. I think it was 2016. And I remember getting off a bus and ringing my friend Sarah in tears, going, I'm going to be so rubbish. No one's going to like it. I've got all these people who've paid money and I feel like a fraud and they're going to challenge me. And I was just so worried that it's really weird. It's like, I really worry because it felt very personal that I was sharing my way of working, my design, my thinking. And she was brilliant. She just like sort of gave me a good verbal slap around the face in a positive way and told me it was all going to be okay and to take some deep breaths and get in that room and set up and all was going to be all right. And she was correct. What was really interesting, I'd said back in 2011, I'd wanted to start with my own clients and I hadn't because of mum passing. I remember it really clearly. An old colleague from Diageo messaging me going, can we have a conversation? We've got some work we think we'd like you to do. And I ended up, which was really odd, going back into Diageo and doing some really great work with them around their Global Sales Academy and also their European, and also working with their European sales teams. And I hadn't been back to Diageo since I left. So that was in 2015. So it was really brilliant. Like, they were probably one of my first clients, big corporate clients anyway. And it gave me a taste of what was going to come with SOF. And what I mean by that was they'd asked me, and I brought in a team because I couldn't do it myself, but they'd asked us to redesign and sort of polish up the current Global Sales Academy that they have. And also it gave me a really interesting challenge of finding trainers, globally in different locations that spoke both English and a native language, like honestly, Thai, Vietnamese, and then we had Italian, Spanish, French. She says nonchalantly now. Finding people in Australia, finding people in the UK and Ireland. It was brilliant. It was a lovely, and Mexico and Latin America. That was quite interesting. So finding sales trainers who spoke both English and their native tongue, and then bringing them into an onboarding and a train the trainer event. And that was great. And that was I didn't realize, I look back now, it was a real taste of what we get known for now and the kind of work that we get asked to do in corporates, which is often create something in terms of learning rather around sales, and then bring in a train the trainer element, or just go directly into the train the trainer element, or train and support L&D teams, or functional leads to be able to deliver learning. But that was 2015. And from there, basically, it just went on and it went on, in that more clients started to show up, which I could never worked out how. But as someone pointed out to me, I'm consistently on social media, so maybe that's how. What also happened, and I wrote about this recently in a newsletter that you can find, is that the associate work fell away. Because I wrote a really honest article just about getting great coaching on my delivery and how impactful that was, and how positive it is to receive coaching on your delivery when you're a facilitator or a trainer, because it's something that rarely happens. And I put that on LinkedIn. Sadly, the owner took umbrage. The owner of the training agency took umbrage to that. And for many years, I never understood why. And my work fell away. Like, they just stopped communicating, really, which was really sad. And really confusing to someone like me who's pretty open and wanted to probably understand what was going on. And I never did until about 2 years ago in 2022. But, you know, it's informative, isn't it? It helped me grow. So there you go. There's a little bit about my journey from 2008 all the way through to 2016, which probably is the real start of School of Facilitation, as many of you might know her today. I never know how to quite finish these, team. I hope you find that insightful. I hope you find that of interest. Tell me what more you want to know about SOF, and I'll talk about it in the next episode. Drop us a DM, send us an email, find me on the socials, so LinkedIn, Kirsty Lewis, or School of Facilitation, or come onto Instagram, and I'm on there as School of Facilitation. Tell me what do you want to know about School of Facilitation itself? What would help you in your business? What would help you personally? I'd love to help. See you soon.